All right, now we got a very special guest on Full Court Fits today. 14-year NBA veteran, two-time All-Star, three-time All-Defensive Team, which seems kind of low to me. 2014 Defensive Player of the Year, also finished fifth in MVP, and most importantly, fellow New York City legend, Joakim Noah. What's popping, my boy?
What's good?
Man, I'm so excited to have you on the show, man, because I'm a New York City guy, played high school basketball, of course. I followed your career from the Gators onto the league, just as a league dude, an ambassador for the league, a personality in the league, just an example of what hoopers should strive to be as far as your passion, your commitment. Bro, Joakim, thank you for being on the show today, man.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
So I just wanted to talk to you about a couple of things from your playing career. You're a New York City guy, poly prep, and then you transferred to Lawrenceville. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, Lawrenceville.
Lawrenceville. What was that transfer for? Why? How could you leave Brooklyn to go to Lawrenceville, my boy?
Well, what happened was I was getting in trouble in school. I went to the United Nations school before poly prep, and I got kicked out of school over there. I wasn't going to school too much. So I went to poly, got locked in. I started growing a lot. So basketball started, you know, it started being for real. And then poly was great, but I had to redo my sophomore year. So it was a PG, and if I wanted to play basketball you can't play basketball for 5 years in New York.
Got you.
You know, that's ringing. So there's a lot of there's a lot of side deals going on in New York City. I couldn't do
Yeah,
that,
we
so
know,
I
we
had to
know
go to.
about it.
There's a lot of side deals going on, so I had to go do a 1 year prep school, and it was great. We won the state championship. Shout out to Lawrenceville. Shout out to Poly Prep. That place really changed my life. There was a great basketball coach there, great basketball mind, Billy McNally, and you know he really taught me what the work was all about, and it really helped me out, man.
So you go from there to the University of Florida. What do you remember about your visit to the University of Florida? How did you get sold on becoming a Gator?
Well, I mean, Coach Donovan was the best. It was a easy fit. As soon as I talked to him on the phone, I knew that that's where I wanted to go. I just liked his style. His style of play was going to fit perfect for me. And I wasn't going anywhere cold. I was tired of the cold, man.
Mm.
So I wanted to go somewhere where, um, it was going to be warm weather. And as soon as I got to UF on my visit, I was like, yo, this is exactly where I want to be. It was fun. It was a party school, but at the end of the day, they were really focused on, getting me right, getting me ready academically. Everything about it was just perfect. It was a perfect place for me. So I'm happy I did that.
Shouts to Coach Donovan, another New York guy, Rockville Center, Long Island, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly.
You know your basketball. You know your
Hey, listen,
basketball.
man, it's my job. It's my job, Joe. So your freshman year, you didn't really take off. Things started
Yeah.
happening for you sophomore year. When do you remember that moment where it's like, okay, this is about to happen for us? We're really clicking and we're going to do some things.
Yeah. So my first year, I didn't play much. So it was tough. Everybody's in my ear talking about you should transfer and all this. And
Wow.
I remember going back to New York that summer, and I had my one of my best friends, Roscoe Biggers, from Harlem, and he was like, "You need to start playing in all these street ball tournaments and get your confidence up, get right for next year." And it's the best thing I ever did, man. I remember playing at Rucker. I remember playing at Kingdom. Um, and, the environments was just, it was wild, man. Like everybody drinking nutcrackers in the streets and smoking piff. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like, this is where I need to be. So the crowd was just wild, Voice of Harlem on the mic at Kingdom. and I had a great summer. And man, that I carried that energy from those street ball tournaments into my season, and and we ended up winning the championship, and I played pretty well. So it was just that summer in Harlem really like changed my life, man.
Wow, that's amazing that having just an amazing summer could carry you through to your sophomore year and you being one of the leaders on that team to lead Florida to the national championship. And again, because I was following what you was doing. At the time, I was a big college basketball fan. These days, I can't barely watch that. I just can't. It's too amateur
Yeah.
hour for me. But I do remember at the time, like the draft Knicks were like, yo, Joakim Noah could go number one. Joakim Noah is going to be top 3. Like most guys hear that and it's like, all right, I'm done. I've done what I had to do here. It's time to move on to the next step. But you decided to go back to the University of Florida. Can you talk about like the decision that like what went into that decision? Because that's a hard choice to make.
Well, for me, I mean, I'm really proud of that moment, because everything happened really fast. And that first year I didn't play much, so I wasn't even really on people's radar to go to the league. And it wasn't until that tournament that they were like, "Yo, you could be the number one pick. You have a shot at being the number one pick." And I decided to stay because I love the guys, and I knew we had a shot to win it again. And I don't take that kind of stuff lightly. Especially when you're having so much fun, having fun and being happy. I don't take that
Mm.
lightly at all. So we had a blast, and we decided to come back. And there were people on that team who had a lot less than I had going on. My father was a tennis player, so I
Mhm.
wasn't worried about putting food in the fridge or anything like that. So for me, it was just about my happiness, and I'm so happy that I came back, even though it was tough. There was a lot of expectations. When people tell you that you're going to be the number one pick, you can't go any higher than that. So it would be
Mhm.
like we would win the game and I would have 10 points, or and it was never enough for anybody. So it was also a great
Mm.
experience for me because I learned about, you know, people's expectations and all the bullshit that goes with that. And I got to learn about that at a young age. So I think it really helped me, um, you know, dealing with that kind of stuff for later on in my life, later on in my career, especially when I went to the Knicks and dealing with all that circus. So I think that was a really important moment. There's not a lot of guys who did that. I can't name another guy who could have went number one and went back to school. And it's
I
something
think the
that
the
I'm really
only
proud
guy
of.
that did it, nobody's done it since. The only guy that did it before you that comes to mind is Tim Duncan, who,
Yeah.
like you, is a team guy. And I think the decision was he just loved the guys he was around and was like, the NBA could wait. So you and Tim Duncan got that in common.
I like that. That's that's
so
that's,
so
that's a good one.
yeah, so you guys go back to Florida, you do the back to back, you get drafted number 9 overall to the Chicago Bulls. What do you remember about that process of getting drafted by the Bulls, coming into the NBA? You don't even know, this is your dream. You don't even know what to expect, but you get drafted by the Bulls.
Well, I mean, first of all, draft night is so special, and being from New York City, I mean, you can't
Yep.
even imagine. Like, okay, we're coming off 2 championships. I'm in New York City, and I get drafted by the Bulls. I'm home. I remember going out and sitting at the bar with Big Strick, some of the guys that I used to look up to in the street ball tournaments, and real New York legends. Rest in peace, Big Strick, and having real conversations about like guys showing. It was just such a being able to share that with my family, all my people. I remember going to the club that night. We were probably like 50 deep. I mean, what more can you ask for? Being a young kid from New York City and getting drafted by the Bulls, and being able to celebrate that with your people back home. that was so special. I mean, it was some of the best times of my life. And then you get to the Bulls, and it's now the grind starts all over again. And I was very hungry, and I felt like I had a lot to prove. A lot of people, I had a lot of critics too at the time, and um, I was just hungry to get out there and get started.
So, the Bulls are having a dope season right now. And I think they haven't had a team that exciting or that special since the iteration of the Bulls where you was on in
Mm,
2011, 2010, 11, and then 11, 12. Those two teams. Now, a lot of people associate that Heatles era with the Celtics. Like that was their main rival. But realistically, it was y'all. Like the Celtics were washed. They were cooked already. It was you guys that were really pushing them. I feel like the first year of the Heatles, y'all beat them 3 out of 4. Like, and every single game was like playoff atmosphere. I do want to ask you about that time because you guys were neck and neck in the East. Can you share with us a memory that you remember from that Heedle situation? Like a special memory
yeah, I
from
mean,
going up against those guys?
that was the best, man. And those were really special times. I think the league was on fire. LeBron made his decision to go play in Miami, and I think the whole country was, against that. So, we were the young boys who were coming up, who people were like, "Yo, the Bulls can get them." So it was crazy. Everywhere we went around the country, people were like, "Yo, we with y'all." So, D Rose was, real. He was the MVP, youngest MVP to ever play from the hood, from Chicago, and the city was, loved us. So we were the hope in the city was crazy, and a big part of it was because we were the team that had a chance to beat them, and I don't take that for granted. But when you have a chance to win a championship, that's rare, and we were carrying that every day. So it's a different kind of workout. It's a different kind of practice when your whole team knows, you got a shot to go get it. So it was a real special time. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. Like you said, those games were like neck and neck, and then a lot of injuries happened, and um, that it was tough. It was tough, but it also makes you realize, like, especially with these situations, it's fragile, man. It's really
Mhm.
fragile, and you can't take none of that for granted. So when you have a chance to win it, you you can't let the you can't let no bullshit get in the way.
Man, and you know what I love most about it, Joe, is that you was beefing with LeBron from the Cleveland days, called him a
Yeah.
bunch of divas, all of that. What was the sort of animosity? And of course, it's basketball; it's not personal. What did the animosity sort of stem from? Do you think?
Yeah. I mean, competition is a funny thing, man. It's like I realized, like, everybody that I had like so-called beef with were the people who were in the way of getting that chip.
Mm.
So, it was nothing. I mean, I think people made it personal, and I think that there were times where I kind of got caught up in it, for
Yeah, you
sure.
you you might have got caught up in it a
I
couple
got
of
caught up in it,
times.
for sure. But it's just like, yo, I think that's what people love about sports. It's there's a beautiful part of competition, but there's also a ugly side, and it's on a big stage, so people saw the ugly side, and they always highlighted that, and it was real, man. There were times where I really felt like, yo, I hated him. I hated everybody who was in the way. I was like, yo, I'm not feeling you. I'm not trying to be friends with you, you know. And I look back on it sometimes. I'm like, damn, like I was wilding, you know. But it's how I felt, you know. I wear my heart on my sleeve. That's just who I am as a person, and I can look at it now and laugh about it now, but uh, back then it was real, man. I was on my quest. All I wanted to do was win a championship, and man, I'm really proud of those teams. A lot of us are still really good friends to this
I love
day.
that.
We're still really close. We're still doing a bunch of stuff off the court, um, and it was dope, man. I wouldn't change anything.
I want to ask you though, just before we move off of this, have you
Mhm.
seen KG or LeBron since all of the animosity during the playing days, and has it been awkward or was it just cool?
Nah, it's love, man. It's cool. I saw LeBron a lot in the bubble when we
Mm.
were playing when I was playing with the Clippers. And that bubble, it sucked, man. It was really weird. But uh all the players were in that in that bubble together. So there was no running from that. And KG, same thing. We had it was always battle on the court, and there were times where we played a couple All-Star games together and stuff like that. So that we definitely bumped into each other a few times, but um, those were, like I said, there's no friends in battle, you know, and that's how I carried myself. Like, yo, I was every time people hate to say, yo, the term like going to war, but that's how I felt. I felt like I was a gladiator going to war. That's how I felt at the time. Every time I stepped onto the court. So, when you're playing against guys with that same mentality, there's gonna be clashes, and that's what was happening. But now I'm done playing. I can look at it from a different perspective for sure.
So, again, we're New York City guys. I can't have you here and not talk about the episode with the Knicks. I do want to ask you though about the
Hmm.
infamous meeting with Phil Jackson in, was it Montana or Wyoming? I always get those two places confused.
Yeah, yeah, in
Before you
Montana, yeah.
signed, can you please tell us what do you remember specifically about meeting the Zen Master for your free agent interview?
So it was before free agency, and it happened a couple years before, and he wasn't coaching or anything. So it was like before he ended up taking the president job with the Knicks. And I read all of Phil's books, and we had a friend in common. So my agent, who's my best friend, Matt Rosenberg, had a friend who was a dentist. His dentist and my dentist, and was Phil's best friend. So we were talking about Phil, and he's like, "Yo, if you want to go see Phil in Montana, you can go check him out." And somehow it happened, and uh, I remember the directions to his house where there was no address. It was like, make a left at make a left at when you see this tree, make a left. It was that kind of vibe. When you see that big oak tree, make a left. That kind of vibe. So we pull up to his house. We finally make it. We knock on the door. Phil opens up his house. He sees us. He's kind of weirded out that we ended up like going all the way to Montana to go see him. And I remember him telling me, he's like, "Yo, why? What are you doing here? Like, why are you here?" And I had nothing to say. I was like, "I don't know." And we ended up having a great time, great conversation. He ended up building that house from his playoff check in the 1970s. Just like, I mean, real is the Zen master. It's real.
Mhm.
Like, there's nothing phony about that. This guy is as real as it gets. And we ended up having a great time. And 2 years later, I was a free agent, and he ended up signing me. It just shows also, just follow your dreams and follow your footsteps, and don't be scared to go take that step forward, because just being able to have that time, I really feel you know made a change my life.
I mean, just talking to you right now, I feel like you were very impacted by it. But I do want to ask you just one last thing related. Everybody says y'all did peyote out there. Did that really happen? Can you, for the record, tell the people if that happened or not?
Nah. There was no peyote going on. Not no. There was no peyote going on that time. That's for sure.
Okay, just we got that on
Not
the
that time.
record
Not
on
that time.
not that time. We got that on the record for full court fits. And you get to New York, it's your hometown. I'm sure you're super excited. What's your,
Yeah.
you've got some distance from that experience now.
Yeah.
What's your overall just feel about what went down with the Knicks and how that all transpired?
Yeah. It was tough. It was tough. Uh, I was in a tough spot. I lost my confidence. I was dealing with a lot of injuries,
Injuries, yeah.
and I had that first year. I had a knee surgery, a shoulder surgery, so I couldn't even. And I had high expectations off the big money that they gave me, and I'm playing back home. So it was tough not being able to perform the way that I wanted to, and obviously I felt like there were times where I was ready and I didn't get an opportunity. But I can look back at that situation and say, I had to do a lot of soul searching myself on how I was living my life, and just being able to come back from all those injuries was, and getting back on the court. I had to deal with a lot, because there were a lot of times where I was like, I don't even know if this is what I want to do anymore. I lost my love for the game. uh, and I was able to play a couple years after that, and I'm really proud of that, because that moment right there was some of the the biggest soul searching I had to do. They fired Phil uh, in the middle of it. Phil was the guy who brought me there, so I didn't have that ally in the organization anymore. So, and when you're playing for an organization like that, there was a lot of losing going on, and that trickles down to not just the players, but the organization. Everybody's trying to position themselves to try to keep their jobs and all these
Mm-hmm.
things. So for me, it was definitely tough coming from so much winning in Chicago, where people were showing me so much love, to getting shitted on in your hometown. But if you can deal with the good, you got to deal with the bad, and that's the work. That's the that's part of the business. So even though it was tough at the time, I'm happy that happened, because it's definitely made me a better human.
I love it, and just know this: you're not the first person to have to do some soul searching after going to the Knicks, and you certainly
Man.
won't be the last. I'll tell you that. But listen, man, you're doing something really special with Ciroc for Black History Month. Can you tell the people about what it is you got going on with Puff and them over at Ciroc?
No, I think it's it's a real blessing to be able to work with Puff and work with Ciroc on highlighting young Black entrepreneurs in all different shape of life, and uh, and just being a part of that. So using my platform and using this huge platform to kind of highlight people who are doing really good stuff, and it's a beautiful thing to be a part of.
Hey, listen, man, Joakim, man, I'm very grateful that you came on the show today. Your spirit of generosity as a player, as a human being, has always shown through ever since you came into the spotlight, man. You're one of my very favorites of all time. It's not just because I'm biased off the New York thing. I just really think it's just, as a hoop enthusiast, you embody everything that's right about our game, about our league, the passion, the seriousness you take it with, beefing with people for your teammates. I love that, bro. Thank you for
I
coming on
appreciate it,
today,
man.
man. Appreciate you, Joakim.
Yeah, big respect, man.